Welcome to another episode of Dengo Thoughts. This time I traveled to Mexico to do an interview. This time I'm talking to Dimitri Poffé. Dimitri has Huntington's disease. That, for the ones of you that don't know, is a neurological disorder that is genetic. And what it does over time, it causes your motor and mental abilities to deteriorate and eventually kills you. It's a scary condition, to say the least, because you're living on a ticking clock. But Dmitry did something interesting. He took the rest of his life in his own hands. He decided to bike all over the world and raise awareness of the disease, of the condition, and bring comfort to the communities around the world that have the condition in their society. And he creates a network that allows for those communities around the world to unite and be more aware of each other and support each other, including contributing to research, dealing with the impact on the families and the friends. So I saw it as a very noble mission. So I thought it would be important enough and interesting to travel and speak to Dmitry while he was in Mexico, waiting to start his South America tour. You guys should follow Dmitry and contribute to his journey if you can. When I arrived in Mexico, I've encountered a very unique individual, someone who is not afraid to dream big, even though he got a prognosis that nobody wants to hear. But at the same time, he's very measured and real. And in one part of the conversation, he told me, I'm afraid of death. I'm afraid every day, and I live with that fear. It's something I have to accept and see past it. During the conversations with Dmitry, I found a few moments in which I didn't know what to say, because the obvious thing is to always talk about the condition and the thing that he does, which we did. But I was trying to ask questions that are more about how he sees the world outside of the condition and the disease. And it's not always easy to do, because I can't even imagine having a prognosis like that visiting me. And how would I react? What would I do? Would I cave and fold and just fall apart? Or would I be strong enough to be able to push myself to try and achieve a mission with the rest of my days? I don't know. I do know, however, that truly I was inspired, truly moved by what one individual can decide about their lives and what it means for them to be alive. So I hope you'll take as much inspiration from it as I have. And now, without further ado, I give you my conversation with Dmitry Poffé. Dimitri, how are you?
I'm good, and you?
I'm doing amazing.
Yeah.
It's an honor to meet you, first of all. I heard a little bit about you from my girlfriend, who told me about you and your mission.
Mm-hmm.
And we, just to be clear to everybody, we're in Mexico right now, which is the first checkpoint where you're going to start your next part of your journey and your mission.
Absolutely.
But I want everybody to first kind of have a little bit of a background of what's going on here, why I wanted to talk to you, and who you are, and
for sure.
What is your actual mission, if you don't mind telling us.
So actually, I'm Dimitri from France. I'm 33 years old. Originally from the north of France, like close to Belgium. And actually, I'm here in Mexico City right now because I'm starting like a bike trip in a few weeks. So I'm gonna travel all around like Latin America. So I would like to go until Argentina by bike, obviously. And why I'm making this like is because, I'm working with Huntington Association. Because, well, I'm myself carrying like the gene of Huntington disease. So I know that I'm positive. Like I got tested 3 years ago, but I'm still asymptomatic right now. But my sister is healed. My dad like died from this disease like 20 years ago right now.
So before we go on that track, I don't mean to cut you off, but like a little bit more, can you first give us like a 1 minute or 2 minute explanation of what is Huntington's? What is the actual condition?
So Huntington disease is like a neurologic disease, genetic and hereditary. So you only get the disease from your parents. So if, for example, if your dad get the disease, you're gonna have like 50% of chance to get the disease as well. And like what's the disease actually? It's like you have 3 different kind of symptoms. So like cognitive, motors, and psychiatric. So
it's neurological, right?
It's neurological, yeah, absolutely. So you're gonna lose the balance actually when you walk. Then you're gonna have some lack of speech, Like at first, the people who get the disease, like the patient, they look like drunk people. It's like they lose the balance all the time, and they have like a lot of difficulties to talk.
Is that pretty early in the disease
Yeah, it's real. That's like the early symptoms. Mm-hmm. And then you started to get like motor symptoms, so which means you have some like uncontrollable movements. Like you cannot control your body. You got like some movements all the time.
So it's like very large tics, basically.
Yeah, like tics, absolutely. And then, like for example, my sister, she's ill from 10 years right now, so she has a lot of psychiatric troubles, issues. So for example, she's really depressed. So since 10 years, she never like get out. She never seen any doctors. She really depressed. She don't want to see anyone. She don't want to talk to anybody. She don't want to get help.
Wow.
And beside that, she has like a lot of psychiatric symptoms, like I said. So she's a bit like bipolar, we say in English. Yeah. Then she has some hallucination.
Oh, so it gets to like
like the disease getting to dementia.
Oh, wow.
So you have like around 15 years, 20 years from like the first symptoms to the dementia.
So I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that the disease advances to such. So it actually gets to like a dementia level.
Yeah, absolutely.
And by that point, you already. Do you get to like? You never get to like a Stephen Hawking level, right? It's not like you completely atrophy. Like it's mostly just no control, right? I mean, it's still pretty bad, but I'm just trying to understand the extent.
It's like a mix of Alzheimer, Parkinson, and ALS.
Oh, what a winner!
What a winner! Absolutely.
Jesus Christ!
Yeah.
Wow. So, and you said you stayed pretty asymptomatic so far.
Mm-hmm.
How long ago were you diagnosed? 3 years, you said?
3 years ago. Yeah.
And you still pretty asymptomatic.
Yeah,
what does that mean in the classical literature of the disease? Like, what does that mean for? Like, are there precedents like discovery, and then there's like a big hiatus of nothing bad happens for a while? Is this something that happens?
So actually, it's like you get a score, So there is some statistic, because like Huntington disease is like on a certain gene, which is called Huntington, right?
Oh, that's why it's okay.
Yeah, so on this gene, there is a protein that we call Huntington, and there is some triplets, that we call CAG. If you have like until 34 CAG, you don't gonna get the disease. Like for example, from my mother, I only get 17 triplets, 17 CAG. But then, if you get like, it starts at 34 until 39. So if you have like 34 to 39 CAG, it means you can get the disease, but really like late in your life and with like light symptoms, But you can like pass it to your kids because it's a genetic disease, right? But from 40 CAG, you are sure you're gonna get the disease. So, for example, my sister, she got like 49 CAG. So that's why it started really like early, because she started to get the disease at around like 28 years old actually. So it's really early and with really strong symptoms for sure, because more you have CAG.
So there's a threshold basically. Mm-hmm. When you go over that threshold, the percentages go way up with the actual showing of what the disease does.
Yeah, that's how it works. Yeah. And myself, I have like 45 CAG, so I'm like in the middle. So from the statistic, they say I should like develop the disease until between 35 years old and 40 years old.
That's okay. And you're 33 now?
I'm 33 right now, yeah.
Okay. So now, take me a little bit through, now that we have a little bit of context of what your condition is. First of all, what made you decide to do what you do now? Mm-hmm. How did that come about? How did that decision happen? And if you can give me a little bit of like the your reasons for it, because there's like the external, like, okay, I think this is important because, but then there's like the personal reasons, like why you feel that, like, is it a form of taking control of the situation? Is it whatever it is for you? I would love to see why you think this.
Well, actually right now, like,
first, sorry, tell us what you're actually doing. What's your organization? What's your mission? And
so like I said, I'm about to travel all around Latin America by bike. I'm working with like Huntington Association in Europe, in France, and one in the US actually, who is helping people in Latin America. And with this network, I'm gonna meet a lot of people on my way who are related to the disease. So like families who are living with the disease, like isolated communities, doctors, like neurologists, geneticians. So I'm meeting a lot of people on my way. And the goal is like to make some awareness about the disease, you know. And also what I want in this project is like connecting everyone, because it's a rare disease. For example, in France, we only have like 6,000 cases.
What's the population of France?
67 billion actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we only have
like,
6,000.
That's like not even a 0.%.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we only have like.
So they feel very isolated. Like they feel very alone. Yeah. It's not like nobody knows about it, so nobody really knows what it is. Absolutely. So you're trying to connect the.
Absolutely, because I think like we are stronger together, right? And like the disease doesn't have any borders. So if we can work all together with Latin America, Europe, the US, Canada, Africa, you know, because there is some people who have the disease as well in Africa, we can like make a strong community and try to raise some awareness and I don't know, like trying to get a treatment. And
you the organization is called is it Exploring for Huntington, or what is it called?
That's the name of my project.
No, of your project.
Explore for Huntington.
Explore for Huntington. And in it, just to make it clear for people, you basically travel the world on a bicycle, correct?
No, I didn't. I traveled the world, but not on a bike, you know, because like...
No, like you go from country to country on a plane, right? But or is the bicycle a new thing?
No, the bicycle is a absolutely new thing, actually.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Like, before the pandemic, I traveled the world for, like, around 2 years, and I came back in France, like, just before the pandemic, actually. And why I started to travel like that is because when I got tested, like, 3 years ago, I was about like to like leave my job, like get a master's degree, trying to improve my like career. But when I discovered that I'm carrying the gene, I was like, all right, you know, I just wanna like make my dream true and enjoy my life as much as possible. I didn't have any girlfriend. I had the money at that time to do it, so that's why I left everything and I traveled the world.
What was your? It's by no means even any central point, but just out of curiosity, what was your main focus academically? Like, what was the master's you wanted to go for?
I like to work like in like business and marketing, you know. And my plan was to get back in Vancouver, Canada, because I used to live like for a year over there. I really like the city, the people, the environment, and but my plan was to get back there. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, and then you decided, okay, I'm gonna. So how do you start with what you're doing? Did you go to the organization and offered, hey guys, I want to do something that is meaningful. I want to meet people. Is that how you
absolutely.
Okay.
That's what I did, you know, with social network like and the internet. You know, I got some contact and I sent some email and I present my project and there it is.
Okay.
But why this project actually is because, you know, I'd love to, like, I know I can get a disease in a few years, right? So what I want right now is like living my life as I want, you know, like doing everything I like, actually living from my passion. And I know that maybe I'm gonna have like a shorter life than most of people. So what I want is like, like sharing something with people and like, do not have any regrets, you know, in my life. That's my purpose right now. Like whatever happens, like in 2 years, it's gonna be all right because I did my best. That's what I think, you know.
Yeah, and that was my impression. I didn't want to speak for you, but you know, the closer friends to me that I told that I'm gonna go and do the interview, and they asked me what it's about. I said, well, my impression is that it's a form of taking control of the situation, which is like, okay, I have this, even though we all have limited time, it is true that when you get a certain like reminder that you might have a shorter time and you almost get like a bracket that you have to fill in, then it seems like it's like it becomes a very kind of like, you know, okay. But it sounds beautiful or romantic when you think about it from the side, but I'm sure it's very different to actually be on the side that actually has to make that decision. A lot of people just give up, which is totally get that too. Like it's just kind of like this. I'm sure that you just want to kind of crawl into a fetal position, just like oh, it feels unfair. I think that part must play kind of like a role. Maybe not for you. I don't know. Maybe for you or not. But it seems logical to me that for people with similar situations in which any prognosis that entails a limited time, it seems like logically the feeling of this is unfair must be so pronounced. You know what I mean? So that was my impression of why you decided to do this, and also it is an important cause, connecting people that are in a similar condition and actually talking from a perspective of somebody who has the condition versus somebody who's talking about it from the outside, which has a very different kind of weight. Completely different weight. Does it? Would you say that on a daily basis, you have this kind of looming over you, or you already got pretty good at just like, okay, like we go, you know?
Honestly, I'm scared, to get the disease for sure. And like, I'm wondering every time if I don't develop any symptoms, I'm like watching myself all the time. So for sure, I'm scared. I cannot, because it's already like strong disease, I can see my sister right now, she's so weak, it's really terrible, and even for helpers, like people who help the patient, it's really, really hard, so of course I'm scared, but I want to try to do my best,
Yeah. Do you feel that, so first of all, that bike thing, you said it's relatively new. What made you make that decision?
Like by bike, traveling
by
bike?
Yeah, why all of a sudden bike?
Because I needed to make something big, to get like attraction from medias, from you, for example, from like to get like to make awareness for Huntington. If I just travel like by flight, everybody can do it, right?
Yeah, it's not as
So the idea by bike it was like, all right, this guy is doing something different that most of people. It's completely crazy, and also I like exercise. I really like sport. I'm really healthy since like 6-7 years ago right now. So it's like I can bring all of my experience, because I traveled the world for 2 years. I got a good physical condition. I can speak English, Spanish. So it's not like common in France that people are speaking different languages. So I want to bring like all of my experiences, my knowledges to this cause actually. That's what I want.
Well, it worked. Because I think the bike thing is what got my attention more than anything.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and that's a very smart decision.
And myself, I'm doing something that I like,
You like,
I'm
but
living
also,
the adventure, I'm traveling, I'm meeting people, I'm doing like exercise every day, so...
I haven't traveled to a country that I don't speak the language in a long time. The last one I've been to was in Colombia, I think. So I guess also Spanish, but I got a really good reminder of what it's like to feel like a fish out of water. Like even to make a simple order, even though you kind of know a few words, you always feel like this insecurity. So I'm sure it's very different, even much more when you're trying to like travel, like go. You really got to have a little bit of the control of the language.
Yeah, for sure.
And have you been to a lot of countries in South America or none of them?
Yeah, for sure. I've been like Colombia, Peru, Bolivia, Chile, Argentina, Brazil. So yeah, I know a lot.
So let me make a little change in pace. You just came back from your first Vipassana retreat. You did a 10-day silent meditation. Kelsey, my girlfriend, when we finished it, she said, it definitely should not be called a retreat. It should be called a course, which is what it is. She's like, it's the hardest thing I've ever done, but it's also the most important thing I've ever done. And you actually biked there, which took you 3 days to bike one direction?
No, I didn't bike there.
Oh, you didn't bike there? Okay.
No, I got a bus to get there.
Okay, good.
It was much easier.
Yeah. I was like, that's crazy. It's still like, I'm sure that it was...
But that was my plan at first.
Yeah. It was just like, no. I think it's important, especially after, you don't want to be like...
that's what... I was thinking about the after, retreat, I was like, maybe I'm going to be kind of lost,
So tell me a little bit about this.
About
your experience, yeah.
Well, that was... I started to meditate and to learn about Vipassana 2 years ago right now. Because when I was traveling, I met a lot of people who knew about Vipassana, about
and
meditation.
They told you.
And they told me. So they share me some books, they share me some knowledges, they share me some YouTube channel. So I started to get into it, but I never experienced the retreats. So that was my purpose. But since the pandemic in Europe is kind of difficult to get a retreat, so I didn't get any spot. And when I checked like before traveling here in Mexico, like 2 months ago, there was a spot, you know, so I applied directly, and well, I found it. So yeah, I'm pretty glad.
But tell me a little bit about the
So yeah, my experience was,
because
I
want everyone to understand. I want to premise this, but for everyone to understand that this is my 5 cents, and then I want you to give us your whole spiel. Is that you know, people, if when you tell them about the retreat, a lot of people retort with, "Oh yeah, I've been meditating for a long time," and you don't want to sound condescending, but I know, because I was also meditating for a long time before I did the first retreat. And when I did the first retreat, I realized, oh, I never meditated.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's like people like, I've been meditating for 8 years.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, you haven't.
You don't.
Yeah.
You don't.
So
because it's like a way of living meditating. It's not just about like making a kind of exercise for an hour. No, it's like a way of living. You gotta change your way of thinking. Like you gotta meditate all the time, you know, through the day. And so like for the first 4 days, everything was all right. You know, like when I did like the Anapana stage, I was so excited, you know, at the beginning. I was like, oh my God, finally I got lucky. I can like learn, and I could like heard like the SN Guenca sounds, you know. It was so amazing. I was like, oh my God, everything is great. I'm really into it. I was so excited and so motivated. And then...
Wait, so tell everybody what Anapana is, because I know, but
Anapana is like you only focus on your breath. So the only thing you do is like you observe. You don't do anything. You're not looking for any sensation. You're not looking for like, you don't have any rejection. You just observe. You just observe your breath, getting in, getting out, getting in, getting out. That's all. So you're doing that for like 3 days in a row. So obviously it's pretty tough for most of people because you don't do anything else. So that means for like almost 11 hours a day, you are just observing your breath all the time. And why you are doing that is because when you're gonna start Vipassana, you're gonna be more concentrate and your brain gonna be like sharp, you know. So when you're gonna try to observe any other sensation, because Vipassana is like observing your body, right? Every sensation from the top of your head to your feet. So when you're gonna start to, I don't know, try to observe the sensation on your arms, it's gonna be so easy because before you did like 3 days of only observing your breath, like getting out and in from your nose. So that's the beginning of the retreats. Then from the day 4, we started like Vipassana. Finally, you can get into it and you can learn from it. And I had like a really strong experience, like directly at the first day of Vipassana, because I connect with my like, how do we call that? Like my energy flow, you know?
So just you had a free sensation right away?
I got like a light, you know,
wow,
in my head, you know, and I could feel my brain. I got a lot of strong sensation. I could feel all my bones, all my skull, you know, it was really, really amazing. So I meditate for 2 hours straight, you know, without moving in any other posture.
So you did the strong determination.
Yeah.
But
even more, because I did like 2 hours, you know, straight. Because I was enjoying my sensation. I was like, oh my God, I can feel like my heart. I can feel everything, you know, it's crazy. But the thing is like, I started with really strong sensation. And so the thing is like, you don't have to looking for any sensation, right? So what happened is like the days later, I was looking for every sensation in my body all the time. I was looking for the same sensation that on the first day, you know, and that's
the chasing.
Yeah. That's what we want. Because we are making desire, right?
Oh yeah. That's what I wanted to say. That I the first time I went, when they introduced the Adatan, the strong determination, I went there with a very kind of like Russian attitude of like, you know, we're gonna do this 11 hours a day, no breaks, no nothing. I was there every day at like 4:20 a.m.
I did the same actually.
Yeah, it's the way to go.
Yeah,
and when I did the first Adatan, I also did a few hours because I was just like you. I had like enjoyed the feeling, and then I had like a very intense pain in my knee, but at that point I was already in a state in which it wasn't pain; it was just sensation. So I stayed with it, and I felt, you know, kind of elevates you. You feel like very elated that you could, just look at it as a sensation. And actually, I always tell the story to people to illustrate how at that moment when I got done with that session, when I went outside, I felt like I was on acid. Like, literally everything was like crispy clear. I was like, what is this? And then I realized it's a bandwidth problem.
You can see every detail.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
so I realized it's a real science. But then, just like you're saying, the next day I had the worst day.
Absolutely.
Because I was chasing that feeling.
Aversion desire all the time.
I wanted this feeling all the time. So that after the first, so you had this at the first, on the fourth day, on the first day of Vipassana.
Yeah, the first day of Vipassana.
And then you had a pretty roller coaster-y time after that?
Absolutely.
Really?
Roller coaster. Like sometimes I was feeling so good and sometimes I was so bad. Like sometimes, because you got pain in your bodies for sure by staying like 11 hours a day in the same position, but I could like handle like the physical pain, but the mental pain, that's complete. Because like there is a point in the retreat that your mind doesn't want to meditate anymore. It's like disgust about meditation. I was like, what the hell am I doing here? I want to get out. I was feeling terrible. And also like all your impurities are getting out, right? So I could felt like my anger, I could feel like I was so sad, I had a lot of different emotion, right? So it was really hard, yeah.
Do you consider yourself, or what do you believe about the world? Let's just put it the most broadly. So like, do you come from, because I know most French people, this is like such a generalization, but most French people that I met, they're pretty secular. They're very like, come on, it's very like, it's very like straight into the point. There's not a lot of room for maybe forms of spirituality, but definitely not a lot of room for religion or God. And I'm sure there are, but it seems like it's a pretty safe bet that most people in France, they're pretty like secular and just like what works in science and stuff like that. Do you belong in the same camp, or are you more religious? Or no, I guess my question to you is like, did any of that shift for you from your perspective before to the perspective after?
Well, my belief actually is like the nature. For me, the God is the nature. We are all from the nature. We are breathing because of the nature. We need to eat, to drink. So I believe in the nature, but I don't have any like religion. I don't believe in any gods for sure. But I do believe in spirituality.
So do you believe spirituality in the sense
because
that there are
for me it's like a science?
But do you believe there's like a realm beyond this?
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No.
Okay. And how do you view the whole, like what you're going through in Vipassana? Is just like your brain arranging itself all over again, like in a more healthy way, or?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Because I had like a really hard background. I had a lot of troubles in my life, and well, for me, Vipassana was tough, because I got a lot of things to get out from my mind, So, yeah, when I started Vipassana, like until day 10, it was really hard. I got a lot of like strong emotion, and I could like relive some part of my life, like 20 years ago, I could like see my father. I could hear some people that I didn't meet in 15 years,
Like audibly hear them.
Yeah. That's
so interesting.
Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah.
Wow. Did you have any visions, like visual?
No, I didn't get any vision.
No, nothing.
No.
That's interesting. Not that it really matters. Like the whole emphasis in Vipassana is to always like, this doesn't matter. Like it's interesting.
You just observe.
Move on. Just observe.
You don't react to anything.
You don't react.
That's
to
the purpose of Vipassana.
But it is interesting how many different experiences your brain all of a sudden throws at you. It's definitely.
But for me, it was like a big introspection, because you are alone with your mind for 10 days in a row, like 11 hours a day, and you are meditating all the time. So you can observe all your thoughts, and everything is getting out. It's a kind of like, you purify your mind, I guess.
Do you ever ponder about the big questions? Like, or it's something that not that interested in? Like what
What
do
you mean?
Like why? Why this? What's going on here? Like why are we here? You know what I mean? Not in the sense of like who put us here, but like why? Like why does anything exist? Why do we exist? Do you ever think about that, or is it something that you don't usually occupy yourself with?
Well, I don't know actually. I have no idea. You know, if
Oh
like
no, I'm not asking you for an answer.
we all have like a purpose on Earth. That's what you meant.
No, like in the sense of like, do you like when it's like one of those thoughts that hit you in the back of your mind before you try to fall asleep sometimes, which is like, this is so weird. Like, why am I me? You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. Like these...
But there is no me actually.
Yeah, right. That's a good point. but why am I this unit here, right? Why am I... That is a very good point. But, well, maybe you don't. Like I was just wondering. Because I would assume that, people that are religious, even though it's always difficult to deal with a situation like yours, I'm sure there's some relief in the belief that you're going to be with God or something like this, right? It kind of gives you a little bit of a cushion there, I would assume. Because you don't have any of that, I wonder if, and not even as a mechanism to cope, but just in general, did it ever occur to you that actually, if we are, the only ones in the universe, it's actually much weirder.
I don't think we are the only.
Yeah, but it's actually much weirder than just having aliens everywhere, but then, where they are. So, like, there's some people that, they completely nerd out from the subject and they, like, that it really occupies them. Some people, not at all, and some people kind of in the middle. So I guess I'm asking, where do you fall on that spectrum? Like, is this something that sometimes, like, you think about and it's interesting, or it's like, well, it doesn't, I don't know, and that's where it ends for me.
I think it's all about science, If we are here today, like animals, nature, and everything, like it's all about science, and I don't have like the knowledge to talk about.
Okay.
Like,
no, I'm not asking like.
But I don't believe like that someone like creates like humans, animals, like Earth and everything. No, I don't believe in this kind of topics. Yeah. No.
Yeah. So
I do believe that there is other life in the universe for sure, because why we should be like alone is impossible.
Yeah, that's a weird.
There is like billion of like galaxy, right? So
yeah, it is a weird one.
Yeah,
but you don't think. But I would assume you don't think that aliens visited here, right? Not like
I don't know. Maybe actually. Yeah, it's
possible.
It's possible for sure.
With everything that's going on right now with the Pentagon and all that stuff, might be. Who knows? So you believe basically that when this ends, it ends. That's for us at least, right?
Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah. So yeah, that definitely puts a little bit of more of a pressure cooker on living the full life.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So let me go back to your mission. Right now you're going to South America. The organizations that you usually have interactions with, like they all are around communities that have the condition in there amongst them, right? I would assume hospitals that deal with right? Like, is there like a specialty unit usually in the hospital? This is just like
neurologic.
Oh, okay, got it. So anything.
For example, here in like Mexico City, I already like been to the Neurologic Institute of Mexico, So I could like talk with doctors, researcher, and like see how do they make the test, for example, for the disease, see like the triplet, how do you like check on your gene and all your genome actually, and see about like how does it work actually, because for me it's fascinating, like I get tested but I didn't see like what's happening like in the background, right? So it's really interesting, and I can share like everything with like the Huntington community. So I guess it's like interesting for them too.
Oh, because your experience of it. There's no treatment with keep the symptoms at bay or anything that even resembles a potential solution, right? Nothing.
So there is no cure at all. So there is some like investigation, some research, but at that time there is no cure. But we have some treatment for like the symptoms.
The symptoms a little bit, to hold them back for a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so I would assume that a cure would have to entail some modulation of the genetic code, right?
Yeah.
That would be the only way.
That's why it's really complex, right? Because it's all about genetic, and it's like a brain disease.
So maybe something like CRISPR, like technology like CRISPR, might give some answers, but so far we don't know. So far,
absolutely, we don't know.
Wow, that is so. And when you say that sometimes you're afraid, is it something that you have to deal with daily and you have to keep it at bay, or is it like outbursts that, you know, when you have like a period of time in which you feel that more?
I'm thinking about this disease daily, you know, because like I said, I'm wondering, like every little symptoms that are related to the disease, I think it's like, all right, the disease is starting, you know, because it's like a disease will take time, right? You don't gonna wake up tomorrow and you have all the symptoms. It's like a neurodegenerative disease. So every month, every year, like the disease is like, well, literally eating your brain, you know. So at first you get like some light symptoms, like mood swings, for example, or some aggressivity. But we can all have mood
And that's
swing
what
or
I'm saying,
aggressivity.
yeah. It's
So,
kinda
so
hard
that's
to
why it's
know.
really hard. Like you
Yeah.
can get some like unbalance, and it's not related to Huntington. But if you're at risk, or if you know like me that you carry the gene, for sure you're gonna think about Huntington
Yeah.
straight, you know.
The framing of it is very
Yeah.
different. Yeah,
Absolutely.
and it terrifies you at that moment. Sam Harris has made this point many times, where the framing around any kind of pain is everything. Because if you're doing a big deadlift, and at that moment you're doing a bicep curl and you feel the pain, and then the next day you feel the pain from working out, and you know that this is a good thing. It's very different than if the exact same pain would be because you have bone cancer, and you feel it's just because you know that
Absolutely.
your response to it is completely different.
That's why like 80% of people, at least in France, they don't want to get tested, even if they are at risk, right? So they make family, they have kids and everything.
Oh, they don't want to know.
They don't want to know. They don't.
That's interesting.
Because they're too scared.
Did you say 60%?
80%.
80%.
80%, yeah. That's all. I don't know in the US actually.
That is very. How do you run that statistics? How do you?
From like the institute in France.
Oh, but how do they know they have it if they never got? Oh, when they pass
Because
away.
they know that they are at risk, right? They know like the parents, the families who they
Oh,
have
I see.
Huntington
So the
disease.
people who are at risk don't get tested 80%.
Absolutely.
And you decided to get tested because you decided you wanted to know. You want to know.
Because I would like make some plan about my future, right? I was like at first I was turning on 30 years old, and my dad got the disease around 30 years old, my sister as well. So I was like, all right, like maybe in a couple of years I'm gonna get a disease, so I should like get tested. But then as well, it's like I needed to make some plan in my life, if I can, because like right now, for example, I don't want to make any family,
Yeah, you don't want to pass it to your
I'm
children.
so scared. Like we can test like the baby before he's born, right? So I don't know how do we call that in English actually, when you get tested on like the embryo.
Yeah.
So
Well, depending what stage it is, but embryo would be in the beginning, yeah.
we can know on the embryo is like if the baby.
You mean when it's a fetus? I think embryo you wouldn't know. You would know at an embryonic stage. So like embryo is before it's even a fetus, I think.
Yeah. So we can know.
You can know even in the embryonic.
We can know, yeah.
Wow.
If he has like Huntington disease.
That's crazy.
So some people, they are like getting their kids tested, and then they are sure the kids don't gonna get the disease for sure, 100%. But in my position, like if I get some kids today, or like I don't know, in 2 years, and in 10 years I get the disease, I don't want to leave my family with this kind of disease.
Yeah.
Because I know how hard it is to help like people who are living with the disease. I mean, it's really hard for patients for sure, because they carry the disease, but it's really hard for people around,
Around them, because they also are going to have to live with your absence.
Mm-hmm.
And that's...
And like mood swing, aggressivity, violence, like...
it gets to that point.
It's like you help a lot. You help from the morning till the night, until you get to the bed, but you gotta help without anything back,
Yeah, you gotta love completely.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
you basically grew up with it, because you said your dad
Mm-hmm.
passed away from it, and your sister has it.
Well, actually, my dad didn't really know about the disease because my parents were separated. So my dad was living in the south of France, I was living in the north, so I couldn't see my dad at all. And at the end, he ended up like living in the street. He was homeless for 5 years, living with this disease.
Wow.
Because he didn't get any like help from his family. My family didn't help him as well. So he
ended up with the mood swings, with the...
and everything, like in the street.
That is so crazy.
Yeah, it is.
That is wild.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, man. That's some gnarly shit.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So, wow, and so did you not know about your dad at all? Did you discover this after he passed away, or you knew about that?
No, I discovered that. Oh my God, I got the Spanish word.
It's all good. It's all good.
After he passed away. There we go.
Wow.
Because at that time, like it was like 20 years ago, 25 years ago, we didn't know about this disease, you know. My dad, he got Huntington for like 15 years. He didn't even know he has Huntington, you know.
How did it make you feel when you found that out? Like, were you angry at the people who didn't tell you, or you just got scared that, you know, immediately that you had it, or what was your immediate response to it?
I got scared, you know, because I knew straight that it was like a genetic and hereditary disease, and I was thinking more about myself than my dad because I didn't really know him, right? And well, actually, exactly the same for my sister. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So my dad passed away when I was like 11 years old, and I discovered he has Huntington when I was maybe 18, so 7 years later.
Jesus.
Yeah. Because I couldn't get like his like medical file, right? Because in France there is like a law, you need to get 18 years old if you want to get like a medical file. So that's
interesting. Mm-hmm. So I would assume that also relationships is something that you probably shy away from because you don't want to put the person through that, right?
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, until like 30 years old, I didn't know that I was like positive, right? So I was scared, like most of people actually who don't want to get tested. I was like in the same situation. I was so scared. I wouldn't talk about it. I wouldn't learn anything about this disease. I just like
burying your head in the sand.
Absolutely.
I don't want to know.
Yeah, I don't want to.
Which, by the way, I totally get. I don't know if I would.
And most of people are doing that, you know.
Yeah. It's almost like, you know, sometimes it's kind of hard to. Mm-hmm. You see it with COVID a lot. People just don't believe they can get it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like this, it will never happen to me kind of thing, mm-hmm. which is ridiculous because, I mean...
Well, that's usual in humans, you know. If we don't experience, we don't believe in it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very strong point.
Like right now I'm talking every time with my families, my friends and people that I meet, that you guys, you should care about your health because that's the first thing that you need in your life. Before everything is your health. If you don't have health, what can you do?
Yeah, with all the money in the world, the health doesn't.
There is no money, there is no relationship, there is nothing, you know.
There's no enjoying.
Yeah, for sure. So the health is like the most important thing. But for like people, they don't get it, you know, because they are young, they are like 30 years old, everything is doing well, so they don't mind, you know. They think it's only for other people.
One of the things that I think is the most important. So, you know, the podcast is about devoting yourself to either a craft or, I mean, this interview show I'm doing is about either devoting yourself to a craft or to a goal, and really living outside the bounds of what people would consider normal, right? At first, it wasn't really clear to me why this is such an important thing that I think should be out there. And again, there's a lot of content that covers, you know, that in different ways. But I think the reason, with each one of those episodes, I'm realizing more and more that the thing that is important in it for me personally is to show that it's really possible to make a completely different life for yourself depending on what your choices are. And I think in your situation, it's such a clear-cut line of like, am I gonna live my life, or I'm gonna feel sorry for myself and just allow the fear to dictate what I'm gonna do next or not gonna do next. And what you just said about, well, until people don't experience it, they don't fully like entertain the real possibility. I think it's such a simple but very powerful statement because it's absolutely true. People might sympathize with, like, I have sympathy for your condition, but I can't possibly know the depth of the impact.
Yeah, for sure.
Of the thing. We all been through rough times, but the reason I'm saying that is because I don't know you well enough, but it seems to me that you're you keeping your head above the ground in a way that is very realistic and truthful to the condition, to yourself, to what you think is important. And I think that if you strip away everything that this condition might bring into your life or will bring into your life at a certain point, this path is available for anyone. It's just a matter of like the weight of not living the price of not living your life fully. I have a friend who one time we were talking on the phone. I actually don't remember the conversation in detail, but there was a phrase that he said before we ended the conversation, which was like, I was like, whoa. I said something about paying a price about something. And he said, well, Danny, we all pay a price every day with our lives. And it's such a, again, simple thing, but I was like, whoa, okay. Because every day that you get up in the morning and you don't want to go outside and explore, you don't want to go and like push yourself to do the best of whatever it is that you happen to find, any situation you find yourself in, that day is gone.
Yeah, absolutely.
That day is gone.
You can't get it back.
No, you're not going to
sure.
get it back.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not about, like, obviously with condition, like any terminal condition that, you know, you have a certain prognosis that gives you a certain amount of time, it puts some emphasis on it for sure. But I think it's available for everybody. I think that the thing that is being lost every day, you know, people always talk about how, you know, how there's this narrative of like we have to like be closer to nature, social media is bad, that whole meme, mm-hmm. right? Or memeplex. I think the real problem with the way that people where people lose the plot is not in that even. Like I'm a firm believer that our place is in the future. It's in the stars. I'm all for modernity. Like I think it's important to remember where you came from, and I think it's important to value the things that we've created, culture, antiquity, and like, you know, older culture. Very important. But I think ultimately we want to strive for, you know, for the future, for like the virtual reality and everything that we can possibly imagine. Where I think the bad thing is not in the, like, it's not in social media. It's in the fact that it makes it things like social media it grabs our attention so much that it makes it very easy to forget. So I think that ultimately the thing that is, again, bad in social media and things like that, it's the fact that it grabs our attention so much that it makes us forget how valuable each moment really is. So things like Vipassana definitely remind you.
For sure.
Like it definitely brings you back to like this.
Vipassana, it's a big deal.
It's a big deal. And I know for a fact, especially with your journey, Vipassana would be like such an amazing like added tool. But I guess the deeper point I wanted to make was that it's so important, I think, that people have this certain amount of control over their attention to remember how important it is to tell your loved ones that you love them today, to go outside and have a connection with your experience. It doesn't even matter if it's nature or the city. It's connection with your experience of the world. And I think that is the main thing that is being lost. And when I hear a story like yours, it's very easy to fall a victim to this very powerful emotion that you get when you're sitting in front of someone who you know have to deal with that. So it's because there's this very strong empathy, right? But I think the impulse that I would love to bring more out is actually the respect element of it. Mm-hmm. So it's like there's the empathy, but there's this deep respect to not just, you know, talking about it, but actually doing something about it, but also really, really like living with both the consequences and everything that you have to do. So in that regard, I wanna emphasize that there's this. I'm very moved by the fact that you chose to take control over the situation in this way, and it really is a reminder for me that you can always have a better time than what you're having. It's really a matter of a choice.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that because you kind of like, let me think about how to frame this question. So you daily, constantly looking for these conditions, right? Which is like the worst condition of like a hypochondriac, because no, I actually have a thing here. So I'm not just fucking making shit up, right? How much of that time do you find like enjoy, like, are there a lot of joyous moments in your day, or mostly it's just kind of like keeping the fear at bay?
No, actually, my day are joyful, and I'm happy, and I'm enjoying each second of my day. But I'm not like freaking out every day, right? I'm not like anxious or getting anxiety about knowing that I'm gonna get this disease. But it's just that, like, knowing that I will get this disease for sure, I'm wondering myself. I'm like observing myself all the time, you know. But I'm doing well, you know. And especially I think because like a lot of people, they tell me, all right, Dimitri, I'd like to be brave like you. I like to be strong like you. But like I said all the time, I'm not stronger or braver than anyone. It's just like I'm working, you know. Every day I'm trying to do things who develop my health, you know, like my mental health and my physical health, you know. So that's the first thing I care about, you know, since I get tested, for sure.
I would think that if you don't do that, like to a large extent, it's also for you, because if you wouldn't do that, then the meaning would drop out, and if there's no meaning, then
and it's like a fight, you know. It's like I want to try to come on, how can I say that? Like I want to try to get this disease as later as I can, you know.
Yeah, of course,
for sure. So what I'm trying to
and who knows then, but like maybe you will be one of the lucky ones.
For sure.
By the time that
I have no idea about that. You know?
Yeah.
But like you can tell me anything to make my health better, I'm gonna try it for sure, you know. Because again, I don't want to get any regrets. So for sure, it's not because I'm healthy, I have like a good nutrition, I'm doing like exercise, meditation and stuff, that I don't gonna get the disease. Of course, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
But I want to try everything, you know. As long as I'm in health and I don't have the disease, at least, well, I did my best again, you know.
Did you try Wim Hof, by the way?
Yeah, for sure. I'm doing Wim Hof method, yeah. I'm getting like cold shower every day.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm into it since like 2 years.
That'll be interesting to see you go and actually, you know, for his retreat, to go and actually do the Mount Kresge and stuff.
It will be interesting, you know.
Yeah, I think it should happen at some point. I think we need to try and make that happen. That would be interesting. Like, there's something about this guy. Just going up Mount Kresge with him would be.
And he's from Netherlands, so.
Oh yeah.
It's close to.
It's pretty close.
France, yeah.
It is kind of crazy that in a week he brings people up there.
Yeah.
People with their underwear. So, what was that transition between your normal life to the life after you got the diagnosis? How long did it take you to kind of balance yourself out? Was it a month? Was it a year?
Well, actually, I feel really grateful because I think I made a good decision, right? Like 6 months.
So you made a
good decision.
Okay.
Like 6 months after that I got tested, I traveled the world, you know. So I didn't have a lot of time to think about it, you know. I was like discovering new places all the time, new people. I was like enjoying my trip and my dream, right? So there was no place for Huntington. So I think it was like a kind of therapy. And then when because like 3 years ago, I was like, it was impossible for me to talk about that, you know.
You mean psychologically?
And physically, you know, I was checking, I was so scared. You know,
so that's what I mean. How long did it take you to kind of...
Like 2 years, I guess.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you actually deal with the condition.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Wow, 2 years of just.
But again, I think like all of my habits, my healthy habits help me a lot for sure. When you are like doing everything you can to feel good, of course, like, and if you get discipline, like we learn in Vipassana, of course, like you're gonna get some rewards from it. And I really believe that, like right now, if I'm like more able to talk about it, if I'm able to do all of these things, like, because it's really tough for me. I mean, I'm gonna see some people in Latin America who have like poverty and struggling with Huntington disease, so they don't have any treatment, they don't have any doctors, they don't have anything. It's really, really sad. And of course I'm sad, but I think I'm able to do it because I worked a lot on my mental condition and my physical condition. So that's how I got like the strength,
That is kind of incredible. And so, when you decided to go on this specific tour of South America, do you usually set up everything in advance? Do you like talk to the centers and the communities, and so everybody know you're coming, or you just kind of plan it as you go?
With the social network and the pandemic, it was like the perfect way for me. I mean, like since a year right now, a year and a half, I'm working on this project, and with the social network, I can like get connected with a lot of people in Latin America, association, doctors, and everything. So I made a big network. And also I'm working like with an American association who are helping some countries in Latin America. So they are sharing with me their network, So that's how I can meet all of those people.
There's one more thing that I wanted to explore with you, which is when either you live, like, there's a treatment and you live into your old age, or the disease does take place and you live shorter life, what do you feel that you want your legacy to be? Like, is there something that you want to be remembered by more than anything, or this is something you don't think about?
Yeah, for sure. I'm thinking about that. That's the purpose of my project. It's like doing something good, helping people, sharing, doing something from the Huntington community. And then the day I'm getting like the disease or I'm gonna die, well, I know people are gonna remember me in a good way, right? I cannot make any family, so I cannot have any kids, sharing with them, like giving them before I'm gonna die. So I'm trying to find some ways to, like remember me and,
the actual thing that will
people.
continue your name.
Yeah,
that is a mindfuck. Mm-hmm.
Because it might be real, like I'm only 30 years old and I'm already thinking about my death, but for sure, when you have this kind of, you have to deal with this kind of situation in your life. I mean, you think about it,
Yeah.
And I think like everybody should think about it, like how the people are gonna remember about myself, Because you're gonna start to act and live in a different way,
Yeah. This feeling we have that we're going to live forever is a very dominant phenomena. Mm-hmm. And I think that my rant about people not appreciating the moment is along the same lines. It's not it's I think it's at the root of saying, oh, I don't feel like doing anything today. I mean, obviously once in a while it's okay, but like if you do this for a long time, the root of it is kind of the assumption that, I'm going to live for a very long time, which first of all, you don't know. And second of all, even if you live the longest time, it's still not that long. It's like,
for 80, sure. 80 years, even myself, like tomorrow I can get cancer.
Yeah.
Who knows? We never know.
Wow, dude, that's like, it's like, bro, if you're there, what's up? That's come on, a little bit of leeway.
I mean, that's life, right?
No, it is. It absolutely is. I was thinking about it. No, go ahead. Sorry.
With this project, I'm like meeting a lot of people who are like living with Huntington disease in their family as well. And for example, I have like a good example, like a couple. So like the girl, her mother, she has Huntington disease. Like she's 45, 50 years old, something like that. And like, so her daughter, she got tested. She knows she's positive, right? and she has like 43 triplet, like CAG. So she were like with her boyfriends for 30 years, you know, for 30 years, since they are like teenager actually. And actually it's kind of funny because she's like researcher, right? So on Huntington disease especially. So she's like dedicating her life on Huntington disease for the Huntington community. She carried the gene, like her mother, like has the disease as well. And you know what, like, so she was with someone for 13 years. And when she started to talk about her condition to her boyfriend, you know, she thought like, all right, he gonna run away, you know, he wouldn't make any family or stuff. So she was so scared. Finally, she talked to him, you know, and the guy was cool, you know, he like accepted the situation. He said, all right, you know, we are together, so we're gonna stay together, I'm gonna help her, whatever happens, you know. And you know what, like 6 months later, the guy got like a cancer out of the blue, and he died.
That's crazy.
You know?
That is life.
That's life, you know?
Yeah.
We never know, you know, that's what I'm saying to people.
Yeah. There's I was thinking about it, I think yesterday actually, I was like, because I was making plans, all kinds of things. And I was like, oh, I was thinking 20 years from now. Mm-hmm. I was thinking about like the future. I was thinking about like kinds of stuff. And I was like, it would be fascinating to see what the world is going to be like at 2041, right? And I was like, wait, I'm going to be almost 60 in 20 years. That's crazy. That's crazy. It's like, bro, 60. That's like, you know what I mean? That's like an old guy.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
I was like, wow. Like that. Life just goes like that. So it's like, I find myself, even though I understand, you know, everything that I'm telling you, which is like, you know, the paying attention more to the moment and everything, it's very difficult to remember that on a daily basis when everything is kind of like in a routine.
Sure. Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna ask you one more question about a subject, and then we can either take a break.
Just like an answer about what you are saying right now is like myself. Since I got tested, I'm saying all the time, all right, Dimitri, you know you're gonna get this disease. You probably gonna get like a shorter life to most of people, because if I get the disease like between 35 and 40 years old, it's gonna be really hard. But at least everything you are doing right now, well, you're gonna make a really intense life, right? You're gonna have a lot of experience. That's why I'm traveling a lot. That's why I'm living like in a lot of country abroad and stuff, because it makes me feel I have like different lives, right? And for example, I'm only 33 years old.
Oh, because you visit in different places.
Yeah, because I can say like, all right, I used to live in Vietnam for a year. I used to live in Vancouver for a year. You know, I stay for like 2 months in Argentina. I know people all around the world. You know, I'm only 33 years old. I got tons of experiences.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, there is some people who are like 80 years old, and they are still living, but they have like an empty life. There was like doing a routine for 40 years, like the same thing at work, you know, with the same woman, with the same people. And that's all, you know. And I think I'm happier by living this life than getting like a long life, but because I might have like a short life, but it will be like a meaningful life, right? And I prefer to get this kind of life that, you know, living for until 100 years old, but in the same routine with the same people. Yeah, that's what I feel.
I 100% agree. I think that the most important thing is to use every moment of your life that you can to enjoy the path, and also have different experiences that enrich everything that you do. Because in the end, either there's an afterlife, no afterlife, God, aliens, doesn't matter. In the end, you're here. So what you know for sure is available to you is to have all those different experiences, and to have them in such different flavors that I think can inform you about the larger scope of what experiences might be, unless you wouldn't have those things. So I'm 100% with you on that thing. What I wanted to say is that it's not, for me, it's not it's not the last subject I want to ask about, but I want to ask one more question, and then either take a break or adjourn if you're too tired. I want us to go and I just need a little bit of coffee, like also kind of like dwindling down, and I want to go and grab us lunch or something. But what I wanted to ask you is, in the end of everything that you do, you don't think that there's something. I'm already warning you that the question is a little bit out there. You don't think that something in the world, in the universe, in nature, registers the actions that you take throughout the life?
I don't believe in this kind of stuff, no.
Interesting.
I think we all have like the cards to deal with your life, you know, and it's all about choices, you know.
But ultimately, when you're gone, it doesn't really have any larger meaning to anything else outside of you.
I don't believe it, no.
Interesting.
But it might be, you know. But
Yeah. No, I'm asking.
at this point of my life, no,
I'm
I don't
not
believe
asking you like, you know, for like definitive answer. I wanna see how you view it, because it does paint everything you do, and just like, you know, like we said, if you do the bicep curl or you have bone cancer, that's the frame in which you're seeing the pain. The frame in which you see what you do also changes dramatically. What you believe the net outcome and actual product that you put out there. So like because it's very easy to get lost in the romantic idea of, you know, so what I do matters to like something bigger. And it's also very easy to become very cynical on the other side, which is to say, well, you know, in the end, I mean, it's all good. We want to be good people, but not because somebody's sitting up there with a chart. But it also is very easy to get very cynical from that perspective. In the end, just like you, I care about what's true. In the end, what matters is what in fact is true, not what I want it to be. But I was wondering if there's like it's interesting. I find that actually the people that are really good at developing something or really good with the skill, they're the ones that actually rely on the notion and the idea that there's something guiding them way less. And I think that's an important relationship with the world, because you take much more responsibility for what you do and how good you can get and how much work you actually have to put in versus waiting for something to kind of help you to become a good thing or help you to get $1 million or whatever it is. And that's why I always ask this question, because I always want to see like what is the majority of opinion among people who actually make like stronger choices in life. Yeah, it's more on us. I wanna take like a super short break. I wanna get us some coffee and some food. Are you cool with that?
Yeah,
okay.
Sure.
So we're back.
Yeah, we are back.
Took a little bit of a break. What I want to ask you? Oh, first of all, you traveled to a lot of places in the world that we didn't touch on, and I want you to tell me a little bit what it's like to live. Where did you live for a year? You said.
In Vietnam and Canada, Vancouver.
Wait, 1 year and 1 year, or?
Yeah, I lived like 1 year in Vietnam. I was like English teacher, and then I used to live in Vancouver, Canada for a year as well.
What did you do in Vancouver for a year?
Well, I was learning English at first, and then I got like a job over there, and I stayed for a year. Yeah.
And can you tell me a little bit about those experiences of what it's like to interact with those different cultures?
Well, it was fascinating because, you know, it was actually my first experience abroad my country. So, like, I'm originally from a little town in France, so I never got, like, the experience to talk with, like, foreigner people. Like, when I was in Vancouver, I was meeting, like, Japanese, you know, Korean, Chinese, like, Brazilian, like, German, like, people from all around the world. So it really opened my mind, you know.
But do you feel that something... I mean, I know, like, open your mind is a little general. So, like, can you share a little bit of, like, specifics of how you feel that it opened your mind? Like, did you not have some acceptance of, like, different kinds of creeds before then? It seems like you're pretty open, right?
But I was kind of close-minded at first, you know. That's
Oh, okay.
why, like, all of these kind of experiences changed me so much. You
So
know?
see, that part is missing in my story of you. So like, I didn't know, like, it's not obvious that you were closed-minded because you seem to be pretty open-minded. Is it? So you feel like it definitely changed you in that
It
direction?
changed me so much, you know. I was like another person, you know, when I get back in France.
So more patient towards other people, or
More tolerance, more open, you know, like more mature, of course.
well, yeah. I mean, more mature. You can say also about like all kinds of experiences, but specifically.
No, but for me, like when you live and experience abroad, you do much more things that you're gonna do in your country, right?
What do you mean?
Because you meet more people, you learn different new languages, you like open yourself to new activities. And if I was like staying in France in my routine, I was like doing the same thing all the time, you know.
Oh, I
Well,
see
you,
what
you
you're saying.
can you can do that as well in your country, but that's what happened in my experience when I was
Yeah.
like living.
No,
abroad.
I'm with you. I think that when you're outside of the bounds of your own cultural fabricated world, like you in your own, you know, like there's a certain things that are expected of you and you expect of other people, and it's done a certain way. And then when you're outside of that, all of a sudden, you know, you make a certain gesture or you say a certain thing that doesn't necessarily translated is not necessarily translated the same way. So you have to actually pause and you have to like really think how you comport yourself, how you do, like you can see that there's other ways to do things, for example. So it becomes much clearer that it's not the only way to do it, and it might be obvious logically, but I think when you encounter that, it really can
Yeah,
open.
it's amazing. Like for me, I feel like I only spent a year there, but it's like I spent 3 years, you know, in my mind. When I got back in France, I was like so different, you know. I spent
That's
and
fun.
when I can compare my life when I'm traveling so much, you know, or living like in different countries, and then I get back in my country and I talk with my friends, like we have a totally different life, you know. So they are keeping doing the same thing all the time. They are doing their job, you know. They are with their girlfriend, or I don't know. They are in their routine, right?
Wait, how small is the town you're from?
I think there is like 150,000 people, something like that.
Oh, so tiny.
Yeah,
Literally tiny. Wow.
It's a really small town.
What is I'm very ignorant when it comes to geography and things like that. What is north of France known for? Is there like
agriculture
okay,
and industries? Yeah.
so that's the main thing.
Yeah.
And you said okay because it's already closer to the border, right? There's a lot of trade. What and now that you're going to South America, what are the key places that you gonna stop at? Because you said it's gonna take about a couple of years, right? 2 years.
Well, actually, from Mexico, I think I hope I can reach like Argentina in a year and a half. That's my goal, actually.
You all the way down.
Yeah.
Okay. In a year and a half.
Yeah, in a year and a
Okay.
half.
And what are the key places that you already planned on? Is there something?
Well, I'm gonna
particular?
cross all Central America, so Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, and then Panama. And from Panama, I got a flight in Colombia, because you cannot get in South America from the land borders, right? It's too dangerous. It's all about jungle, and there is some like narco traffic. So it's better.
Which is great for a bike, you know.
Yeah, as well. So I'm gonna fly from Panama.
You can make some extra cash and we'll
I'm gonna fly like straight to Colombia, and in Colombia I'm gonna like let my bike in Colombia and flying to Venezuela, because I think it's safer to get in Venezuela like by flight. Because well, there is like I'm traveling in South America because there is a history about Huntington disease here. You know, I have like a purpose to be here.
Wait, I don't know about this. So why?
Yeah, that's why. Like, so here there's a lot of people who get the disease. You know, more than in the US or in the Europe. You know,
What's the genetical lineage that caused this? Is it like
colonization.
oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So
It
can
all
it be?
happens from Europe. You know.
So where is
when
it
they
traced to? Mostly Spain originally, or
Yeah.
oh really?
Spain, in Venezuela, and in Colombia.
Interesting.
So that's how they got the disease here, and especially in Venezuela, you know. So there is a place which we call the Maracaibo Lake, and you have a lot of communities living with Huntington disease, because those people like 200 years back, they was kind of isolated, right? Like the people was saying, oh, all right, those people are crazy, you know, they shouldn't live in the city, you know, so there was like kind of like rejecting people living with Huntington. So
but also there was probably no awareness of what in
it
fact
started to like they only live together, you know, in little villages, and that's how like they created some Huntington disease communities in Venezuela, especially in Colombia.
wow.
Yeah,
So the awareness is like has a different kind of weight there, because
absolutely.
creating the awareness is also creating the openness for the
Mm-hmm.
situation and maybe some inclusiveness, basically.
And the first time we discovered like the gene of Huntington disease, it was in 1993, and it was like a scientific from the US. So she discovered the gene in Venezuela actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So basically, you're saying South America is very, like, it's very prominent,
Yeah.
and it's just way more prominent than people
Yeah,
think.
that's why.
And so that's so crazy to me that, like, basically just a lot of the people you're saying that live in, you know, on the streets, they probably have some form of Huntington's. Like, it's not crazy to assume that a good percentage of them do,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
because society basically rejects them.
Yeah, absolutely.
But isn't it true that in places that are less developed, you know,
And
the
especially
streets
you know,
are
back in the days, people thought like there was like really
Demons.
Catholic. They thought there was demons or devil, you know.
But it's like, no, I'm saying that in places that are less developed, it seems like the streets are kind of like the norm, right? It's like closer to, so like it's not like they're rejected in a big city where there's like very high level of living for a lot of people, and then they kind of fall off the wagon. In places with less money, it seems like the drop is not as.
Well, of course, but there is like, I mean, there are poor countries for sure.
We were talking about specifically about the when countries are poorer, right? So maybe the drop. It's not horrible. They're probably ostracized by society, but it seems like it's not as crazy of a drop in level of living, even though, you know, obviously the disease, but it's just like they don't get like there might be not as much of a difference maybe in the way.
I think there is still some like different like level of poverty, you know, inside the poor.
Oh,
countries.
interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's
There-
like crazier.
It depends where you are, for sure. Yeah.
Hmm.
And especially like around the Lake Maracaibo, I know it's really really poor, you know.
What do you do for when you encounter those cases? I mean, obviously it's very sad, because you also have the gene and the condition, and it's going to develop. You have this deeper understanding of what it's like to live with it, even the potential of it. But what do you, when you go and you actually meet with the centers and the organizations, what is take me through your actual day? Like, how does it look like? Like, you just go, like, you address, there's like a public, you do like an interview, you talk to the experts, you then talk to the people who have it. How does the day actually
Well,
look?
usually they welcome me, you know, and they show me like their work. So their laboratories or like association, they show me how do they work here. Like, so for example, here I met like the Mexican Huntington Association, so they show me how they work, especially with like in Mexico, you know. Then they share with me like how many cases they have like here in the country. And usually I'm doing the kind of interview, you know, with them.
And for you, you learn more about the situation
Yeah,
in
for
different
sure.
places, and you understand the bigger picture.
Well, I learn about the situation in each places, but I also learn about like Huntington disease, you know, about the research and everything, because I met like a lot of people in science field or doctors. I mean, here I had like the opportunity to meet like genetician, neurologists, researchers, so it's really interesting for me, you know.
What is the main where is the majority of the influence of any finances that go in the direction of Huntington's? Is it in research, or is it in creating awareness and creating environments for communities to kind of like feel like they have a
That's
place?
a good question, actually. There is two kind of people in like different kind of association. For example, in France, they focus on like research. So every donation is for research. But for example, like the association Factor H, which I'm working with them in the US, they are more caring about people, you know. So it's different. They don't like invest that much in research.
So they want to handle the situation of the people that already have it now,
Mhm. Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
And what is do you have any plans, or like did you ever conceive of like what kind of plans can potentially take place in the future for you, where you maybe create like a like an actual some kind of a trust fund that you through the awareness that's going to grow and like donations is going to go. Do you feel like you're going to focus donating more to research or to the community thing, or both, or like what do you feel like it's going to be?
I'm trying to give to everyone, so for research, for like French Association, European, Latin America, I'm trying to like split all the donation.
So you're already raising donations, right? And how do you do that specifically? Because I want people to know, because I want to be able to.
So I made like a crowdfunding with GoFundMe. So I already raised like around $10,000.
But it's gonna need like much more serious amounts, basically.
For sure.
And the majority of the money in the field, like for example in France, does it come from the government, or where does it come from?
It depends. From some like they are working
the
with
big,
some
the
companies,
biggest.
For example,
Okay.
organization. They have a bit from like government, but not that much. But honestly, in France, they have like a lack of money. They don't like. For example, I was so surprised because here the Mexican Huntington Association, they have like a better structure, a better like kind of company. Well, it looks like they have more money than in France, for example. So I was like really surprised. And even like when I talk with the people here, they ask me, so how does it work like in France? What's like the infrastructure of the association, how you guys are working? And I was like sharing with them, and then they was like so surprised that actually it sounds much better here. So I think it's all about money, right?
Well, the ability to operate and do something.
Yeah.
But that's why I'm asking, because I wanna also potentially try and help and push the message out. But I'm trying to figure out what is the most effective. So for sure, making people aware of your GoFundMe, right? But also I'm trying to think, like what you're doing already is very interesting. I think maybe amplifying just the sound wave around what you're doing, I think it will make people more aware. It's something that it's always, for me personally, it's always hard to kind of know, because there's so many different things in the world for people to pay attention to. So they have, it's always difficult to know what is the thing you want to attach yourself emotionally to. And because you're saying it's such a small minority of like the percentage of, is it a small minority in the world too, or just in France?
Yeah, in the world.
Just a tiny one.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, and it seems like, well, we'll definitely, like, first of all, definitely create more awareness around your fund, and gonna keeping a very close eye on what you're doing, and I'm very, very excited to do this again, when we can, when our paths will cross again. Tell people where they can find you specifically on social media.
So they can Google like Explore for Huntington. That's the name.
One word, just
Explore for Huntington without any space, and they're gonna find like my Instagram page, Facebook page. I got a website as well, and my crowdfunding like GoFundMe. Yeah, but I wanna talk also about my crowdfunding is like I'm sponsoring some kids right now in Colombia. Through like Factor H Association, because you can sponsor.
Wait, repeat that please again.
I'm sponsoring some kids. So that means if you give like $300, they have like some furnitures to get to school for a year, and they have enough food for a year.
Wow.
Yeah. So
okay, that's very, very important.
$300, and they can live actually for a year. And why specifically some kids is because, well, they are at risk of Huntington. They lost like their parents, like one of their parents. They are living with family, or people who are like helping them, but they are like most of them orphan. So
most of them are orphans?
Orphans. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how do you manage that structure, the economical structure of just $300 a year? Is that just like how little it costs to live in those places? Or?
No, it's not about myself. It's because I'm like working.
No, for the kids, I mean. How did you structure this like model in which for $300 the kid gets
it's like the association, like Factor H, because they are working in Colombia, Venezuela and Peru.
What is it called again? Say it again.
Factor H.
Factor H?
Yeah, Factor H.
Oh, Huntington, Factor H.
Yeah.
Interesting. So that's I'm assuming that's a big organization?
In LA, actually.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
Factor H is an organization.
And the director is like a Spanish researcher.
Okay.
So he's like dedicating his life on Huntington disease, like trying to find a treatment. And when he came like in Latin America, he was like making some like events, talking about like the research, talking about his work in the US and like all the like the update about the Huntington disease. And then he met some families, living with like the disease, and then he realized he needed to do something, to help them. So that's how he made like this association.
So he's a biologist originally, or
Researcher.
so he's somebody that you're in direct contact with all the time?
Yeah, for sure. I met him like 2 days ago in Mexico City.
Oh, so
for
he
the first time.
he travels all over.
And because of him, I got like all of his network here in Latin America. So that's how I can meet a lot of people, and it's all about networking. Then you get to know like one person, and then you're gonna get to know like 10 people.
Yeah.
So
That's-
that's how it works. And actually, I'm here like since 3 weeks, and I already met a lot of people. Like every day, I'm meeting people here. It's unbelievable.
So if people want to find out more about what you do, where do they go specifically? I'm gonna link the Instagram account and everything, but anything else that you want to specifically mention?
So they can Google like Explore for Huntington, and they're gonna find like my Instagram, Facebook page, crowdfunding, GoFundMe, and my website. And also, by searching Explore for Huntington, you're gonna find my GoFundMe page.
And your GoFundMe page you already raised, so far a very small amount considering what we're aiming for is like 10,000.
I only raised like $10,000 actually right now.
And what is the goal that you put on that?
$15,000, but I can like set it up whenever I want.
Yeah. Okay. So this is something that clearly needs to be keep. So and you are going to be focusing on traveling South America right now.
Yeah.
And like we said, raising awareness. I'm going to keep following very closely with what you're doing. I really am very moved by what you're doing. That's kind of like the obvious. But it's something that I think more people need to be kind of expand their horizon and understand that there's actually relatively little, like we can do relatively little and make a big difference. I think that's the thing that people need to process a little more. Mm-hmm. So I'm definitely going to try and do my best to help people process that as much as possible. I really find personal inspiration in what you do. Again, we said this off camera. It's always easy to kind of fall into this immediate response of like, oh wow, this person is going through something very rough. So you have this like that's what a strong person, like that's very like impressive on its own. But I there's really like a deep sense of respect that I feel for the fact that you actually choose to do this and actually use your time to help others
people,
Mm-hmm. And that is not a given, and I'm sure you know that to some extent, but sometimes it's nice when somebody reminds you that what you're doing is actually very important. So I thank you deeply for you took quite a ride up here. I just took a plane. It's not really, I wasn't doing anything, but you went through all this crazy traffic here. Mad respect and admiration, man, and I'm excited about following your journey very closely and help promote it, and also doing this again the second weekend. Maybe you'll be in the US or I'll come South America somewhere.
But thank you so much to like giving me the opportunity to raise awareness for like the Huntington disease, because like before myself is like talking about the disease, and I think like I'm really grateful that you can like making an interview and we can talk about this disease, like what I'm doing, my project, because it's something really important for me to communicate, right, about the project. So thank you so much. You came here like from LA in
it's
Mexico.
just LA, man. It's like I didn't fly from the other side of the world, but I appreciate your appreciation, and but seriously, it's a pleasure. Like really, I'm very, very moved by your mission and by you as a person. So just keep doing what you're doing, and I'm very excited to do this again very soon.
Thank you so much, bro.
And respect, bro.
Take care.